Hi! Even if you've never watched Doctor Who, we know you're gonna like this episode. Well, the fans of the saga already know why they want to watch this series again and again. So are you ready to travel to the future? Greet them! This is the 9th Doctor who has just once again saved the planet from evil. And his new partner, Rose Tyler. She's an ordinary saleswoman from London. The girls just found out how the time machine, TARDIS, works. And now she's choosing where to go. The Doctor decides to take the initiative into his own hands. He spins the time machine with all his might and offers the girl to get out of the police teleport booth. They get into a small room where a huge Earth is visible in front of them in the porthole. The Doctor explains that they've jumped 5 billion years into the future, and Rose's planet is still alive, despite her numerous fears about global warming and asteroids. However, the day they arrived is a tricky one.
This is the day the sun expands. Welcome to the end of the world.
It turns out that Rose and the Doctor are on a strange spaceship. The richest guests from different planets will arrive here anytime soon. All of them will gather on the platform to watch the destruction of Earth, like a regular television show. So the Earth only has half an hour left. Hopeful, Rose asks what the purpose of their journey is. To save the planet? But the Doctor only replies that it's too late to save the Earth, and there's no one, because there are no people left on the planet at all. The reception of guests begins. Aliens of the most bizarre kind arrive in the hall. Tree people, bird people, and creatures that don't even look like people. One of the rules of reception is to exchange gifts with each other as a sign of peace. The first gift to the Doctor and his companion is given by a mysterious tree girl from a distant planet. According to the rules of etiquette, it's the Doctor's turn. He, of course, has brought nothing with him, so he gets himself out of the sticky situation elegantly. He gives his new acquaintance air from his own lungs. At the end of the reception, the last person from Earth, Cassandra, is brought into the hall. It sticks into the crawl to call her a person. She's a piece of skin with eyes and a mouth stretched over a frame. It turns out that the woman is more than 2,000 years old, and in order to survive, she asks her attendants to spray her with a special humidifier every 5 minutes. As a gift, the woman brings a unique ostrich egg from her planet. Among the guests, there's one delegation that looks particularly mysterious. These are the adherents of the repeated meme in black robes. They give strange metal balls to everyone present. The Doctor kindly presents them with the same gift he gave to the tree girl, and one of the balls goes to the blue steward, who, in fact, according to the rules, cannot accept gifts. But they insist, and apparently for a reason. Confused of everything going on around her, Rose goes to one of the distant rooms of the ship to watch the sun. There, she is accidentally caught by another representative of the blue race, Ruffalo. She's a plumber, and she needs to fix the hot water supply in one of the rooms. They have a conversation, and in response to the question of where she comes from, Rose cannot find a few words to utter. She suddenly realizes that she's somewhere unknown with an absolute stranger, and this scares her. Afraid to say something superfluous, Rose leaves Ruffalo alone with work, and frankly, it would be better if she didn't. The chief steward announces over the speakerphone that the owner of the blue booth has urgently contacted the office. It turns out that teleportation devices on board are strictly prohibited, and while he is distracted by his work, the spider in his balloon also does not waste time in vain, and the spider in Rose's ball too. Meanwhile, there's only 25 minutes before the destruction of Earth. The mechanical spiders grow increasingly on the board of the spaceship. One of them barely attacks Rose with its sharp claws, but the Doctor scares it off in time. The time traveler's companion is clearly upset. Alien guests frighten her, and she also wants to know what placed the Doctor's origin, but he evades the answer. Instead, he tells her that all the guests do not speak English to her. She only thinks so, because the telepathic field of the TARDIS has penetrated into her brain and automatically interprets any speech. Such interferences in her head infuriates Rose even more, but she calms down when the Doctor gives her an unexpected gift. The mobile phone that the Doctor set up for Rose is working as if nothing had happened. The girl calls her mom and warns her that she will be a little late, but she can't figure out how the Doctor managed to connect her with a person from the distant past. However, Rose doesn't have time to ask questions. The ship suddenly begins to shake, and the Doctor notices the oddness. The steward announces over the speakerphone that the cause of the shaking is just a small gravity pit, but he's no less nervous than the guests. He's flown the ship a lot of times, and knows that it's not supposed to shake this much. He receives a message that some strange metal creatures have infiltrated the ship, and then tries to find them himself. But one of them catches the steward first. The doctor, meanwhile, feels that something is wrong. He knows that the shaking of the ship did not happen exactly because of a gravity pit. He also hears the changed frequency of the engine. A tree girl named Jabe offers to take him to the maintenance room to check what's going on there. There are 15 minutes left before the death of the Earth. The room is already literally teeming with metal spiders, but they hide before the doctor and Jabe go inside. The doctor's surprised that there's no captain there, and his companion explains that the entire platform is controlled by artificial intelligence. It turns out that all the systems on the ship are rigidly automated, and if something goes wrong, then no one will be able to help the passengers. While the doctor and Jabe are trying to figure out the cause of the turbulence, Rose is waiting for their return in the guest room. There, she starts a conversation with Cassandra, from which many interesting facts come to light. For example, the fact that she's not the last person in the universe at all. She just doesn't consider those who began to mix with representatives of other races as people and calls them mongrels.
I kept myself pure.
How many operations have you had?
708. Next week, it's 709. I'm having my blood bleached.
Cassandra hints that it wouldn't hurt Rose to have an operation on her chin. She replies in her heart that she would rather die than become an artificial bitch like her. After all, there is nothing humane left in her for a long time. While Rose is figuring things out with a cheeky guest, Jabe and the doctor continue to make their way to the room with the engines. The tree girl wonders if her companion is getting involved in dangerous stories because he has nothing left. It turns out that she scanned him with a special device and recognized his face. And when she saw the results, she couldn't believe her eyes.
I just wanted to say how sorry I am.
Not having time to depart from the confrontation with Cassandra, Rose stumbles upon new troubles. She's deprived of consciousness and carried away somewhere by the adherents of the repeated meme. The doctor and Jabe get into the engine compartments and finally catch one of the treacherous spiders. The doctor guesses that someone brought them on board for sabotage. There are 10 minutes left before the destruction of Earth. The doctor runs back to the guest room and sees the chief steward burned alive in his own office due to the deactivation of the solar filter. He notices that according to the plan, another filter should be turned off soon, and tries to prevent this. He still doesn't know that this should happen in the room where the senseless Rose lies.
Anyone in there? Oh, well, it would be you.
The doctor manages to reach the entrance of the hall before the incandescent sun incinerates his companion. He even manages to reprogram the filter for the reverse descent, but this does not last long. After a couple of seconds, the shield begins to rise again. The lock and half of the room have already melted, and in order to escape, Rose has to lie down on the floor. But at the very last moment, the doctor still manages to hack the bonkers system. There are only 5 minutes left before the large-scale Earth destruction show, and Jabe addresses the waiting guests. She informs the audience that the malicious devices in the form of spiders have invaded the ship, and the steward has been killed. In the midst of general shock, the doctor comes and offers a simple solution. Once someone has brought their pet on board, it's enough just to send their pet back to the owner. It turns out that the adherents of the repeated meme are behind all of this. One of them tries to attack the doctor, but as always, he turns out to be more cunning. The good news is that these are just remote control robots, and the bad news is that they're not the main villains. However, the truth is revealed very soon. Of course, the cunning Cassandra is behind the whole operation. She tells without a shadow of hesitation what her plans are to take hostages and request huge compensation because plastic surgery will not pay for itself. But now she has a better idea: to kill everyone present. The thing is that she has a stake in the competing companies of all the guests, and after their deaths, the shares of the companies will rise significantly. Not wanting to delay, Cassandra orders the spiders to immediately destroy all security systems. But this is not the last trump card she hides up her sleeve.
Safety systems. Bye-bye, my darling.
The guests panic. There are only a few minutes left before the explosion, and it's getting hotter inside. At this point, to the doctor, occurs the idea that a system reset button must be somewhere on board. He and Jabe run headlong back to the room with the engines, and he immediately notices the coveted button. But there's a problem. To get to it, you need to go through the rapidly rotating blades. The only way to slow down the movement of the propellers at the very least is to keep a special handle lowered. Jabe volunteers to do this, despite the fact that being inside is much more dangerous for her than it is the doctor. While the guests in the hall are panicking from cracks in the glass of the portholes, the doctor runs across the bridge, bypassing the blades, but before the very edge, everything falls apart. At first, the doctor falls into despair. The blades are spinning fast again, and he can't even understand at what moment they're moving over him. But summoning all of his willpower and remembering Jabe's sacrifice, he still manages to make it to the button at the very last moment. The shield appears around the ship again. The exoglass is tightened, and the Earth explodes from the unbearable heat of the sun. The Doctor sees that only a pile of ashes remains of Jabe, and returns to the waiting room, infuriated. He's clearly bent on revenge, and already knows how to carry it out. The humanoid picks up the ostrich egg left by Cassandra, and sees that its power source is inside. The Doctor presses the button, thereby reversing the teleportation process. He tells Cassandra that she's killed people and should be punished for it. The villainess only laughs it off. If you think these creatures are people, then try to prove it in court. But here's the problem. Her faithful attendants with humidifiers are not around, and the temperature on the board is still high. Cassandra is dying from her own weapon. The shuttles with the guests leave the platform, and the Doctor and Rose are left alone. Rose is sad as everyone was so busy saving themselves that they weren't even bothered by the Earth's death. But she doesn't have to be sad for long. The Doctor takes the girl to the police booth, and they find themselves back in the center of London. He gets transparent with Rose. Apparently, his home planet has exploded the same way as Earth will explode in the future, and he's the only living representative of the Time Lords. The Doctor asks if Rose wants to continue traveling with him, because now she has seen how dangerous it is. The girl ponders for a second, and then offers to eat French fries first. And after that, makes the vital decision. By the way, did you also notice that Cassandra is pretty similar to someone? Well, if it isn't the voice and face of Professor Hooch from Harry Potter. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are still many exciting stories waiting for you.